was so in love. I guess I just loved horror so much that I was like, I can't be scared by this. I love it. This is fantastic. My name is Joshua Pangborn, and I am currently living in New York City. That's where I've been since 2005. So I guess I'm from New York City now, but no one will let you say that because you have to be born in New York City to be from there. I'm basically a New Yorker at this point. But I grew up in New York State, about 45 minutes from Lake Placid. That's where I'm from. Trees, mountains, not so many people, and lots of opportunities to be scared, basically, going outside. There's just no people. So I mean, you either you're gonna get lost. Cell phone service is not very good. And when I grew up, we didn't have cell phone service, so the wrong turn can lead you to the wrong place. Where I'm from is Lake Champlain, and we have our own cryptid there. We have Champy, which is the lake monster of Lake Champlain. You can see our own version of the Loch Ness monster in half an hour from where I grew up. Upstate New York is a really lovely. It's beautiful. I mean, people go there because they want to take advantage of nature. It's also just very different than being in New York City. As a queer artist growing up in an area like that, it was intimidating to come out and intimidating to try to be who I am. One of the first things you hear when you go home is, "Oh, did you see so and so? Oh my God, she gained so much weight." And, "Oh, did you see so and so? Oh my God." That's the kind of thing you get up there. I was a very young child of 2, and no, I remember my mother telling me that I was always sort of showing up and telling stories to the adult. I'd enter the kitchen and they're all sitting around the table doing adult things, not adult things, but doing things adults would do. I would come in and just start telling stories and randomly. And I was always trying to do like little puppet shows. Storytelling was always sort of in me and something I wanted to do. And my way of playing with my action figures was storytelling. I didn't just sort of like mash them together. And no, I would decide in the morning what the story was I was going to act out, and then I would decide which action figures were the right ones for that story. Sometimes it was the Ninja Turtles, of course, and sometimes it was the Batman figures. But either way, they had a very melodramatic story that they carried out with one another. I was a drama nerd, and I am very proud of it. And I did theater through all of my middle school and high school days. I was a theater kid who looked like me, so that meant that there was a lot of encouragement not for me not to be a performer because I really probably wouldn't succeed. I accepted that and I believed that, and it's very easy to believe that because your teachers are telling you that basically. So I pursued the writing aspect more, the directing aspect more, and when I left college, I started my first theater company. Then I focused on my graduate work for a few years, and I started my next theater company, and because I missed it so much, and that's when I created Sidekick Productions, which is my current company that I have now. I started my first web series, and it was around that time that I finished my doctorate. I graduated, and I became Dr. Josh. It was a Batman-themed short film where I was a cast. So I got cast as Professor Pig, and it was very fortunate that and good for my ego that the very first thing that I auditioned for in the city, I got cast in. I acted my own stuff. I act in other people's stuff. I've been in a Peacock series called Poker Face. I just did a pilot for HBO Max. I love to perform, and people actually think I can do it, so I'm gonna keep doing it. I was really lucky when I started Sidekick Productions and moved into film and television that I had a group of people who were willing to go on this really weird journey with me that I didn't know about because I had no idea what I was doing when I started Skeleton Crew, which is the first thing I ever did. A lot of the people that I started with were friends, and they were like, let's try it, let's want to do it. A lot of what I do has a large cast of people, so I ran out of friends. So I put out casting notices on Actors Access, Backstage, and some people popped up and they liked what I'm doing and they wanted to stick around. And I love Christopher Guest and Tim Burton and people like that who find people that they collaborate with well and want to continue working with them. It's so much easier when you do that with friends and family. And I was a big proponent of found family, and with Sidekick Productions, I've been able to find a very, very large and wonderful and very tolerant family of my wackiness and weirdness and darkness that I have inside me. I think so for sure. It took me a while to learn my voice and the fact that being campy is just a part of who I am, and it's part of my writing, and I don't need to fight it. I remember the very first time I put on Demon Doctor for the screening, a screening for the cast and an audience, and they were laughing, and I didn't understand because I thought I made a horror series, and I'm like, you can't laugh at a horror series. What is this? I've really messed up here. You know what? People want to laugh. They like to laugh. A lot of horror is just so funny, and the humor of horror makes the moments of horror even so much worse, I think. Neither takes itself very seriously, but at the same time takes itself very seriously. And that's a very strange thing, I think, to answer. I think anyone who's performing camp or horror takes the character is extremely serious and knows what's going on, and it's the most important thing happening. But for both genres, it's just ridiculous. I mean, Child's Play, you've got a doll running after you. It's a doll. Pick it up and kick it or something. I would do something with it. It's a doll. It's absolutely terrifying in the moment for the performers, and they have to be. But it's also just absurd and wonderfully absurd, and that's sort of the joy of both camp and horror and why they go so well together, I think. Well, I always want to try to do something different than what I did before. And when I wrote Brooklyn Butcher, I originally thought I was going to play the part of Dimitri. That's the more natural Josh role. That's the role that I would probably gravitate towards and be easily typecast in. But I was like, you know what? Let's try something very different. Let's see what I can do to push myself as a performer and see if I can be weird and maybe a little villainous. And with Calvin and Taste of Youth, Calvin is more the natural Josh. Declan was hard to do because I'm not an aggressive person when it comes to sex. I'm not an aggressive person when it comes to life, and Declan is. It was fun to step into that and try that out and put on a new pair of shoes, I guess, basically. Sex positivity has always been something that's been in all of my projects that I do. I feel it's important for people to be represented and seen, and I think that's important for queer people, for fat people, people of all identities, for women, for non-binary folk. And I also think it's something for people who, through expressing themselves for kinks and fetishes, or through polyamory, through open relationships. So that's been everything that I've done. I have a musical episode of season 5 of Skeleton Crew that's has 15 original songs. One of the songs is called the ABCs of Kink because it's a celebration of all things kinky and kink related. I think it's important that sex and sexuality is there and expressed. Too often when queer people in particular are put in movies, they're put in movies because it checks a box, but it also they're not given a sexuality. If you look at shows, Modern Family, the core gay couple, you never see any sort of sexuality between them. They're almost like bickering sisters, and they are never in bed together, or if they are in bed together, it's like I Love Lucy kind of in bed together. And for me, I want to have queer people be queer. I want them to have to act queer and be queer and express their queerness, especially queer fat people. You don't ever see fat people having sex, and then you never, ever see queer fat people having sex in movies and television. So, and since I'm not getting it anywhere else, we're going to do it ourselves. Body positivity, fat positivity is becoming something they're inching to, but it's like one fat person that we're going to celebrate, and then everyone else will be straight size. people shouldn't all look exactly the same and be all the same sort of Hollywood body types. And that's why I do what I do, because no one else is doing it. And people need this kind of material to feel seen and to feel recognized. And I've had people reach out to me through DMs and emails saying, I've never seen something like this depicted before on screen. And it means so much to me to see that. Or it's okay for me to admit that I love fat people and I'm attracted to them because of this. It's just really absurd. It's everything from being like an episode of Cheers to a serial killer. We do a flashback to where I'm a young version of Yolanda. It's taken through the lens of being an adaptation of, almost an adaptation of The Princess Bride. I love it. It's so much fun. It's a great show also for people who want to see an indie production develop. Season 1 is technically a mess. And then season 2, we learn about lights and microphones, and we get into those. And then by season 5, you can see that we kind of know what we're doing, basically. But it's a really great primer for people who want to see what it's like for an indie production company who doesn't know what it's doing from the beginning to as it learns how it goes. So. It takes a lot to scare me. I don't know why. I watch so much horror, and it doesn't have the same effect on me that other people do. Like my mother told me that she could never watch The Exorcist because she was terrified of it, and I think it's because I know it's a movie and that I'm not scared by it. I can get drawn into it, I can get emotional about it, but I'm not gonna get scared by it, I guess. I was so in love. I guess I just loved horror so much that I was like, I can't be scared by this. I love it. This is fantastic. You take the things that people fear and you make them experience them, and you make them have the chance to confront them. Horror is also the chance for you to celebrate identities that are not seen anywhere else. Horror is not really made by mainstream in the same way that comedies and dramas are. The movies that were winning awards were prestigious, and all the ones that are going to the Academy Awards, these are all ones that the mainstream performers wanted to be in. So that left horror, which was a great genre that people could profit from, but nobody wanted to be in them because it was a less than genre. That left the people who weren't able to be in the mainstream ones because of either their weight or their ethnic background or their sexuality, and that meant that we had a chance to be seen and learn who be seen in horror. Oh yes, I just happened to write a book the other day. I took a bunch of ideas that I had percolating in my head that I wanted to write down as scripts and film someday, and I wrote them out as short stories. And I came up with a collection of stories about the quest for love, either familial love, a romantic love, sexual love, physical love, and all the horrific ways that could go wrong. And that's why we have Homo Phobias. This was a queer, scary collection. And then I also, with the cover, I wanted to make sure that they knew it was a fat positive collection of stories as well, because every character and almost every character in this is a fat character. And I wanted them to know that when they read this was a collection of queer, fat characters having horrific experiences happen to them in all the best ways. I always wanted to do Demon Doctor because I love genre fiction, and I wanted to do something that celebrated Buffy and but my way. And how do you do all of this stuff without money? I'm very fortunate that I have someone in my life who just said, "You need a makeup artist? Let me learn how to do it." I mean, who does that? I am so grateful and so lucky. And I've got other friends who are like, "Let me learn how to do audio so I can help you with that." I'm like, who picks up an audio device and says, "I want to learn how to record audio for you"? But they do that. I'm very, very, very lucky to have the crooners, as we call them, in my life. The first half of season 2 is currently streaming. The second half is coming out hopefully by the end of the year. We need at least a season 3 to complete the arcs that I have going on. In a lot of places, if you just go up to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm making a movie, I'd love to film here," most of the time they'll be like, "Oh my God, that's so cool, let's do it." There's a lot you can do depending on where you are. You just have to look at the resources you have and what you can do with them. You don't even need a camera anymore, you just need this. And Once you have that and a good microphone, get a good microphone, please, because if you don't have a good microphone, nobody will ever watch your stuff because they don't want to listen to it. But if you want it, no matter where you are, I think you can do it. You just have to look at the resources you have and make smart choices with them. I know that it's going to have its first festival premiere on October 16th in Long Island. So if anyone wants to come by and see it at Long Island, that's going to be there. And then I'm going to do a New York City premiere probably by the end of October as well. I really love The Brooklyn Butcher so much. I'm so proud of it. I want everyone to watch it all in one piece because the way that it works is both segmented, but also you kind of need to see the whole thing to really see the beauty and the magic of it, I think. So I would love to have a way to not have a day job so I can just focus on this the whole time. That is my hope for the future, is to be able to continue doing what I do, but that people will give us a chance. I think what I make is very polarizing to people. There's not usually a meh reaction to it, which is great. I love that I make people feel things, either very bad feelings or very good feelings, but I would love to have a chance to be seen more and respected a little bit more. I don't think that people look at queer, fat positive film and television as something to look at and celebrate. I'm gonna keep making movies and television for as long as I can stand, and even after that, probably. I want to act more. If anyone is casting horror, I would love to be in more horror movies that are not mine. Please put me in something. I would love to do it. I will do anything. I will run around in my underwear. I've done it in my movies. I'll do it in yours too. My next feature film I'm going to start filming in the spring. I'm taking what I learned from my first two features, and I'm doing all the things that I thought I didn't do quite right. I'm making sure that I make those changes for the next one. So that's how you grow as a filmmaker. I think that's true for everybody from independent film all the way up to Hollywood. Well, I've only got like 30 to 50 years left on life. I need to make as many things as possible, and it takes time to make things. So I need to get going and make. This is where my brain goes, and it's like I said, I'm a little weird and dark person. Angela Lansbury is such an inspiration as well because she murdered so many people in her series, and
Prolific serial killer she is, yes.
most
Um,
prolific in the world in all the history of literature. So